There's a TikTok campaign. They show Nicole Kidman getting in her car. She's headed to the movies, right? And those are just teasers.
It should be yes.
Trailers ahead. And then when when is it going to be? It's this weekend, and it's like the weekend of Avengers: Secret Wars or something. Whatever the biggest movie of the year is going to be, so that every person who goes to AMC gets to see this new
No.
Nicole Kidman. Heartbreak feels good in a place like this.
Part two.
Free movie. What? I don't even know what it is. Hype.
I don't know.
Video.
I think the viral campaign is people coming and all of a sudden the explosion of people being like, "Oh my God, there's a new," and
recording it on their phone, sending it
because
out.
if they put it out, then they're not going to go to the movie theater. They're going to see it online. So
Yeah, you have to tease it to get people to go, but you can't give it away online.
Yeah.
And they should do like
definitely don't give the whole thing away online.
No, because when they should do like when a full movie premiere rolls out, and Nicole Kidman should surprise audiences in various theaters. She should just be there, like when The Rock comes out and is like, "Thank you for coming to Black Adam 7."
Yeah,
they need that.
Before the new video rolls, Nicole Kidman and the director of the video should be thanking you for coming back to the theaters again.
Obviously.
And then saying, "Thank you, please watch." Sure. I don't even know what the point of the video is. It's like a hype video.
In these unprecedented times, going to the theater is more important than ever.
In 2024.
And we thank you.
And then all of a sudden, Nicole Kidman just comes out of every screen like in 3D, but you're not wearing glasses.
If AMC was smart, they would cut a deal to also show it at Regal and Cinemark, just for that one.
Yeah.
I don't even, still to this day,
how is Regal going to copycat it? Are they going to get like Chloe Fineman to just
They
do the
can't, because
expression?
whenever I go to Regal, their pre-show is trash compared to AMC.
I don't even know what it is. What is it?
It's not even very memorable. It's mostly, it's like an animated
heart attack happened in a place like that.
It's like an animated roller coaster.
Roller coaster. It's a roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember what Cinemark does, but
I don't know.
What is it? I mean, it's just like a hype video, but like there's no commentary about, don't text. Like they have a separate video for the don't text, don't talk.
Well, it made sense when it dropped, right? Because they did the Nicole Kidman video when theaters were reopening, and they were trying to remind people like, "Hey, here's why you like this place, remember?" But now it feels weird because it's the same language from 2 years ago. So
it's
yeah,
hung
I'm
around,
interested to see how they switch it up, because it made sense initially. They were trying to be like, "Hey, we're back, and Nicole Kidman's here too, so you should."
But it's become the Kingsman trailer where you're just like, is this ever going to stop running in front of movies?
It's become such a. It's gone from icon to meme to. Now it's just part of their identity. I don't think they could ever get rid of Nicole Kidman.
It's on the Morbius loop. It's had the whole
Plus, AMC's been thrown into the whole meme stock thing. They're a meme stock. People just buy stock in them because for the lulz. I don't know. So AMC's a whole weird thing right now. Yeah, I'm here for it.
They missed an opportunity, in my opinion, every time that they don't dim the light when she says dim the light.
Yeah, I mean,
every time she says that, and every movie theater is either already dim or they're not dim, and then they don't bring it down. Missed opportunity to really elevate it to that.
Make it a show. We used to have Regal bought the Warren Theater in Broken Arrow, and before big movies in their Infinity, they'd have like a little light show and music before the thing actually started. It was great.
I know getting rid of that was a mistake. That made it experience.
Now it's too far away to go to, and I don't really care.
I know. Well, here we are, another week closer to Christmas.
Yes.
We're back on Christmas.
Christmas should be this Sunday, I think.
Y'all done your Christmas shopping yet?
I have.
Oh, you have? I just started.
And late. It's the 18th.
I know, but I just started. I went to Target, went shopping for my niece and nephew, right?
Yeah.
Bless your heart.
It was a mistake. I should have done it online.
Do you do something for everybody in the family? Do you guys draw names?
No, it's tough because we don't have a system really. So I feel obviously kids are prioritized on Christmas. They for sure get presents.
Right.
And then I don't know after that.
With like gift cards or
gift cards.
Oh, I saw this shirt that I thought you'd like,
those kind of fun little things. But it's like the focus is on let's get the kids something. The kids need something cool for Christmas, right? That's the mindset I get myself in. Now, David, you've got a kid now, so I'm curious if it's the same for you.
Honestly, he's the person I haven't bought anything for yet.
Is it because you overthink it?
A little bit,
because
also
I do.
Because I know that I'm going to get an influx of stuff. So there's a part of me that's like, I don't want to buy, I don't want to buy stuff. He's gonna get 18, 50 things that day.
I
So
want to
like,
be,
part of me
I
that's
want to,
like, I hesitate 'cause I want to see what he gets first and then buy him a present. So
I
I'll
want
buy
to
the same thing.
be the cool uncle and get a cool Christmas present. So I always am like, is this cool enough? I don't know
Yeah.
if this is cool enough for a
Well, yeah.
7-year-old.
And you're like, and kids, their interests change so quickly. Because you'll be like November, and they'll be like, "Oh man, I love Transformers," and you're like, "Oh great, Transformers." Key that in, and then by December, like they've moved on to Dino Ranchers or whatever, and you're out of the loop. We kind of have a system where we have a budget. Like we don't spend more than X amount on each individual. My brothers and I would draw names, so I would so as kids we would never buy something for both brothers. So it's just 3 of us. So we would draw names, and we would just rotate. Wouldn't even really draw. But I would buy for my youngest brother, my middle brother would buy for me, and my, brother would buy for him. We just swap every other year. It was an all right. It was pretty good. We did a similar thing with like the cousins when I was younger. As we get older, you don't really, you know, buy presents necessarily for your cousins or
Right.
distant relatives, things like that. I still like to try to find something for my mom and dad if I can. That said, my wife has kind of taken over buying for my mom because she finds really nice stuff for her mom and my mom. Dads are hard to shop for though, which stinks 'cause I know I'm gonna
Yeah, they're always hard to shop for.
just looking
Well,
at
I
my
once had a
future.
whole running gag with my father that I created that he was not a part of, where
Right?
I just said, all you ever say is that you just want I don't know, a trash can. You just want a big trash can. I have a big trash can. I'll be fine. Big trash can. And that would just come up for birthdays, holidays, Father's Day. Yeah, just get him a big trash can. So finally, one Christmas we did. We bought him a big, giant trash can. And for a thing that he never actually said that he wanted, but everyone believed that he really wanted so much. And then the city put out trash cans for us to use that the next year. So that even damn trash can.
There's even for the house. Yeah, that's good. My dad over the last few years, my dad loves golf, but golf is a very expensive hobby to buy for. And so it's always kind of a challenge to find something that's in my little price range for golf stuff.
Can
If it's
leave
not
a golf
that,
ball.
huh? Oh, golf balls. Even golf balls can be kind of pricey depending on which ones you go
Yeah.
get. But, shirts. This year I've got him a pretty cool gift. I will avoid saying it in case he watches this particular podcast, but I think I got him a pretty nice gift. My nephew, Bentley, really, he's just over 2 years old. Super sports interested for some reason. Loves to play basketball. Up at 3 a.m. shooting hoops. He's always game to play. Loves every sport. Loves to actually sit down and watch whole basketball games. But he also loves golf. He likes to get, he like, he, it continually, he's always trying to steal my dad and my brother's clubs. And he loves to he has little toy clubs, and he'll sit in the kids' room. So like Jack will be playing with little toys, and his older brother will be watching, something on his tablet. And Billy will just be over in a corner, just chipping balls across the room. He's a crazy little kid. So I think he'll enjoy this gift as well as a little
Start 'em
sports
young.
fanatic.
Start 'em
Um,
young.
yeah. This year, my best advice is always try to just buy something when you see it. And think to yourself, I'm just going to hold on to this for Christmas. It could be June if you're like, oh, my brother loves blank and they're on sale or whoever it is.
I wish I could be that kind of shopper, but I'm not.
Yeah. It's taken a long time to get myself there because a lot of times I just go, I got 8 months or whatever it is. But sometimes I'll see something, I go, oh, they like that. And I'm right here, I'm standing here looking at it. And I've become so dependent on Amazon and just even online versions of the stores. My least favorite thing, I do it all the time. My least favorite thing is to be standing in the physical store and go to their website and just buy the item. But a lot of times they won't have it. So I'll
A
be
lot
like
of times it's
standing
cheaper
there.
online.
Yeah, and they are, and they'll deliver right to my house. It's great. I like to be able to physically hold it because I can be like, I have it. Things gonna happen to it. I have it. I can take it. I can take it home right now. It's taken a while. We got really pro online shopping, and then I'm trying to even it out.
Yeah, it's important to do a little bit of both because you got to support your local stores.
Yes.
Even the chains, those are people. You got to support them too. It's good to do both, but maybe it's not always great to wait to this point in the year to go do it in person. Or you're going to end up in a jingle all the way situation.
Yeah. And depending on if you know what you're looking for, it's great. If you don't know what you're looking for, it can be really tough because you're just staring at walls and walls.
Yeah. Well, hopefully everybody listening has done their Christmas shopping already or is doing it online to prevent any of the craziness. But we are closer to Christmas, getting there. We're 3 movies into So Many Santas as of today, this episode. Let's get into it. Let's get into our topic of the week. This week is my pick. I chose to have us watch and discuss Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. And this was a hard choice for me because it wasn't what I really wanted to pick, but I didn't know what I wanted to pick was the problem.
Right. It's like last year when you picked Batman Returns.
Right. I couldn't decide if I wanted to do a classic or if I wanted to do something laughably bad like one of those Christmas rom-coms.
Yeah, like Ernest Saves Christmas.
No,
Rom-com.
not quite like Ernest Saves Christmas, but I couldn't find one that felt worthy. You know what I
Right?
mean? Know what I mean?
Know what I mean, Vern?
Know what I
You
mean?
mean, Vern?
That was a pun not intended.
Know what I mean, Kevin?
So I went with Home Alone 2, a classic.
You know, our first So Many Santa sequel, because we did Home Alone 1. It was one of the first So Many Santas.
Yes, we
movies.
did do Home Alone and had a great time with it. Home Alone 2, we hadn't gotten to yet, so I figured that's the next best classic I can think of that I want to do now. So that's what I mean when I say I didn't really want to pick this movie, but I
Right.
do love it, and I still loved it. I was trying to think of who I want to hear from first, like I could be surprised, but I think I want to hear from Garrett first
Yeah.
about this movie.
You know, I think I talked about this whenever we did the original one, is that the Home Alone franchise is not one that I like carried over long term. It's not one of the seasonal watches that I watch over and over. There was a long gap before I got there. This one I feel like I see on TV a lot. I never catch it at the beginning. It's usually on like one of those 37 Days of Christmas or whatever that they do on one of those channels. So this is again the first time that I've really sat down to watch the second one in quite a while. And we had such a good time doing the first one. This one is essentially the exact same thing. And it's not a downside. Like the second half of the movie, you could easily think that it's the first one if you're just watching it and be like, is this the first one or the second one? I'm not exactly sure. It is almost the exact same thing. The first half of the movie feels like a completely different movie. And I enjoyed that aspect of it. I like seeing Kevin get into mischief. I always love seeing Tim Curry. That's always a plus. And then Rob Schneider's there too. So
Rob Schneider had probably his best film role.
I wrote that down.
The speaks, the better. The best Rob Schneider speaks is normally the better.
Well, he does I mean, for what the character is, he does exactly what it requires.
That's exactly what I want to try. He's kind of smarmy, you know, a little slimy. That's what I want Rob Schneider to be. And so, having said that, it is a lot of fun to see, you know, Harry and Marv get their butt kicked by Kevin again. They out the murderous nature of that shtick.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as you hit him at the brick on like a top of a roof, the man is dead.
He is.
You hit him with 4 bricks. The man, his skull is
Like,
dead.
if he survived the first brick, the second brick would it would instantly end his life. Like, he would be, there would be no thought, you know? It would be like when a cow gets shot with one of those things. It's just like instant lights out, you know? Just, yep.
And so, just the over the moon absurdity, there is some really nice element. The one part really does not hold up well. It never really has, but that one part is really bit of a rough part now.
The contractually obligated part?
Contractually obligated insurrection part, yeah.
It was lesser and tamer than my memory had it as, you know what I mean? Like, it happened and I almost missed it. I almost completely,
Yeah, you
because
can miss it. Yeah,
it was so
nothing.
underwhelming of a moment. Like, they didn't hang on it or anything, really. So I had blown it up in my memory to be so much grander of a moment.
Yeah. But again, this whole family sucks. I mean, the whole family sucks. Kevin didn't do anything wrong, and then Buzz was like the butt of, or like the problem, and everyone was laughing. And then Kevin is the problem. No, this family sucks.
Thank you. I thought the same thing.
Yes.
The whole family still treats Kevin like shit.
Yes.
He was right to punch Buzz, and the entire school was wrong to laugh at the bully.
Right.
And the fact that Schitt's Creek, Catherine O'Hara, was going to make Kevin apologize to Buzz still?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No.
Did you learn nothing from the first movie?
They learned nothing. There was nothing. I'll give the mom credit. She really tried at every moment before losing Kevin to not lose Kevin. He was thinking, she was looking for him. Where's Kevin? There he is. Got it, Kevin. She was really trying, and it happened anyway. I was going to say, my wife said that she firmly believes that Kevin, once he turned to 18, cut off all contact with his family.
Of course.
He moved out of that house, and he never looked back.
He doesn't deserve them.
But the dude, the kid, we'll get into it later. The kid is a high functioning sociopath. He is. We'll get into it more later.
Kevin?
That's one of my
Yeah.
Kevin. Yes,
Okay.
he is.
But
Well,
that's
yeah,
my general thought. This movie is, I mean, it's not as good as the first. There's absolutely no reason for it to be 15 minutes longer than the original one.
yeah.
And it felt a little long. And again, it does seem like the movie's hidden. It's got one piece and then it switches to Harry and Marv. And I don't necessarily think you needed them. You had Rob and Tim that you could have messed
Mhm.
with a little bit. And I think they would have served the purpose.
Yeah.
And so when they made that switch, it really just became Home Alone. And again, while not a problem, it wasn't, it was just a rehash at that point in time.
I'm glad you said that. I thought that, but I kind of thought that it would probably be met with backlash to say that Harry and Marv almost like you almost don't need them. It just
Mhm.
feels repetitive, especially when you have Tim Curry, who's great. You have Rob Schneider, who is an actor, and you could have them. You could have them fulfill that same role in a different way, but I guess it's sequels have changed a lot, even just in the last 30 years. So I feel like people were like Harry and Marv and Kevin. That's the
Yeah.
movie. That's what Home Alone
Right.
is. Those three.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because like there's just truly no reason that they would cut that this meeting would happen, you know? That it would coincide that they just happen to go to New York at the same time Kevin accidentally does. Feels so forced. And it is, but it's it's fine.
It's contrived, but they don't
It's
even
fine.
really make that hard of an effort to contrive it.
I
They're
will
like, "They
say
broke out
I
of
did
prison."
love the way we found out about the Wet Bandits escape, which I made sure to make a note of, is of how much I miss the days of finding out about major plot points through a windblown newspaper. That
It's
happens all the time in old movies where a
It's
newspaper blows into
you
a
know,
wall and you're like, "Oh god, a plot point."
we have lost many tropes from the 80s, but this is one that should make a comeback, is the windblown newspaper. I guess today's would be somebody dropping their cell phone at the wrong moment, just right on, and just
Right.
there's the exposition
A
for you.
notification that pops up when you're on Do Not Disturb.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. It says Wet Bandits escape prison. They had a Google alert for Wet Bandits, which might be a completely different category in these days. Anyway,
Did you
What about
David, did you have more general thoughts before are we just in a free for all now?
no, yeah, I have some general thoughts to kind of. I echo a lot of what Garrett said. I haven't watched this one as much. It is, it is like very beat for beat Home Alone 1 with just some New York, trappings on it. I do think that it's, I think though that in terms of I do think it flows a little better in some ways. Like the opening of Home Alone 1 is so chaotic and it's so forgettable. I feel like the first part of the first Home Alone. I talked about years ago, we went and we saw Home Alone 1 with the symphony
Yeah,
performance. And I
yeah,
think
it was good.
the three of us, we talked about how in my memory, because I hadn't watched Home Alone in like a long time, the stuff where he's fighting Harry and Marv, in my memory, was like the whole film was like the first. But there was like all this other stuff, and same thing here. Like they save Harry and Marv and this Saw house for like the last 25, 28 minutes of the movie. And that's like that's the most memorable part of it in a lot of ways. And so this one at least filled in with a little bit more, like you said, with the hotel guest. He's outsmarting them. So it kind of has broken up into those two halves. I think Macaulay Culkin, I don't know if I want to say this or not, because I feel like Macaulay Culkin is cool enough of a person that he might stumble on a clip of so many sequels.
Be nice to Macaulay.
And maybe he would refute this, maybe he wouldn't. I kind of feel like he phones it in a little bit with this movie. Like I feel like he was bored for some of it. There are
Interesting.
moments where it's like Macaulay Culkin peak, and then there's some times where I'm just like, is he intentionally trying to sound completely disassociated from the lines, or is like because like that's what Kevin is, or is he just like I'm just saying these lines to get this? I want to get to that hour lunch, or something
That's
like that. 'Cause
interesting because I thought he was so charming.
he is at times. There is a moment in this movie when he first realizes that he is lost in New York. Lost in New York, the streets are numbered. When he first realizes he is lost, there is a great moment, a great Macaulay Culkin face moment, right? Where he ages like 10 years in the moment. Like he sits down and the New York skyline's in the background. He's like, I'm all alone in New York. And he looks 7. I mean, the character's supposed to be like 10. He looks like a lost 7-year-old boy. And then he says it again, I'm alone in New York. and he has this smirk on his face, and he is instantly Ferris Bueller. Like, he is instantly 17-year-old high schooler ready to get into trouble, right? And I was just like, man, I was just like blown away by like how good Macaulay Culkin was at probably like what 10, 12 years old here. But then there were other times in the movie where I was just like, I was thinking about how Kevin like really does have like sociopathic tendencies. And he's so disassociated from like everything he says. Like whenever he's giving somebody a compliment, he's like, "That's really nice of you, Mr. Duncan. Yeah, I will give you an extra $20 here." And he just sounds like he sounds like he's a robot when he's giving him money and stuff. He's like, "Turtle doves, what are those doing?" Like he's so not seemingly present in anything that's going on, while also, it's not until he's confronted with, like, bad things that he's like, "Oh," and he's, like, trying to get out of there. But, yeah, I don't know, there's just some moments where it just seems like I don't know if it's a choice because he's trying to play this smart alecky kid, or if it's just an actor who doesn't wanna be there. There are those clips you'll see those clips of Macaulay talking about acting as a kid and how it's really exhausting, and he's a kid, he's 12 years old. It's exhausting, and he's not just like a kid on a TV show. He's a kid in like a $1 million movie that like is gonna have all this marketing, like a huge franchise. And it's probably really tiring. So I wouldn't blame him if that were the case. That's just something that stuck out to me. And maybe I'm completely off base. So I apologize if I am.
Interesting. No, I didn't get that.
Oh, also, I feel like Harry is the worst person within the Wet Bandits. But Marv gets it worse. Like, Marv gets the worst like, his punishment is so terrible. But Harry's, like, the badder guy, I feel like, and
Well,
Harry's, like,
Marv's the dumber guy. He's
he's
Pinky.
just he is, and so I end up feeling bad for Marv
No,
by the end of
he's
all these
fine.
things. He gets awful, man.
He's fine though. He brushes it.
I mean,
That's the thing.
he's Daffy Duck, but he is so as an adult, when I watch these movies, I just can't the stuff at the end with the traps and stuff, I just end up it just hurts me now to watch it.
I mean, the whole reason they have to stay in the movie is because Marv is so dumb he tells Kevin the entire plan.
I know, but also Kevin so Kevin doesn't have to do this. Like, he doesn't have to put the
He doesn't have to
after
protect the toy store, but
after
he chooses to.
he chooses to, but after
It's
he takes
Chris
the pictures, he could just run to the police station. Like, he knows what he's gonna go do, find the nearest police station, take the photo, and run. Or, since there's literally one at every corner apparently, just go say, "Hey, officer, I think 2 men are robbing this store," and bust them in the moment. He does not have to put them through the torture house, but he does. Wanna know why? Because he's a murderer. He's a future murderer.
I don't disagree that Kevin is a
No, I don't
sociopath
either.
making. He
He's gonna
absolutely is.
he is going to, 1, never speak to his parents again, and 2, kill homeless people for the rest of his life.
He's too damn smart. He's the smartest person in the movie by a mile. I mean,
I I would
So
agree with that except for the one part where, again, I say that his family sucks. But in this movie, it's his fault. It is his fault that he got lost
It
this
is.
time because all of the study he's running, and then he just decides to stop and change the batteries in the middle of his thing
Completely
without
unnecessary
telling
thing.
anyone. He didn't even tell anyone. He just stopped. He's at the back of the line. He didn't say, "Hey, Dad, wait, I'm going to change these things." He just stopped, then went da-da-da-da-da, and then decided to run. And that, Kevin, is your fault.
you are
It's a
correct, but
completely unnecessary thing to do in the middle of this high-speed moment.
there's
Go
a
ahead.
big but here, and that is that much like the first movie, Kevin never actually cared that he got lost. He had quite a good time with it.
He loved it. He did.
Not until Christmas comes and he realizes he misses his family did he ever care. He was living it up with his dad's credit card. And
True. he
hang
was.
on, I gotta check my. Yes, I wrote, Mom and Dad deserve to lose every penny that Kevin spent.
I don't disagree
Every
with
penny
that.
that he spent, they deserve to lose.
Tell
'Cause
you
they're
what,
so stupid.
and
Why do you think he's got that much cash?
it's a good credit card, man. I'll tell you what.
Rolling around with a bag of cash that dad was in that movie.
He
Like,
was ready
why?
for vacation. Honestly, this family is so frustrating for so many reasons. One, after the events, because they hit it on the head like 3 times that this is the next Christmas after Home Alone. This has
Child
not been
Protective
5 years down the
Services need to come
line.
in.
We're
Somebody
not
call him.
like, why in their were they not traumatized enough? If I was the mom, I would be like, "No, we are absolutely not going anywhere for Christmas." I spent
Ever
last
again.
Christmas riding across the country with the Polka King of Chicago. I am not going back. We are not flying anywhere. We're not doing anything. We are staying home with Kevin.
Also, we established this family's rich, but what do they do?
Oh,
What?
man, that was
Where do they have this amount of money? Like, he just has enough money. Like the dad, he had after going to Paris, after spending all that money to find him, after that, now he's paying for everybody's ticket to go to where were they going? London or wherever they were
Florida. They're
supposed to
going to
go?
Florida.
Florida.
Yeah, they went to Florida this time.
Which, again,
What do they do? This is an unfathomable amount of money.
Oh, and they're not just taking like 3 kids. They're taking like what is it? 4 kids and 3 cousins, and then like their aunt, their parents.
you know, you
Who
guys
are
just
jerks.
forget.
You know what? They're all bad, but worse is Uncle Frank. That guy's a jerk.
Oh, he's definitely a pervert.
He's the one that Kevin kills first.
You know, first of all, you all forget it's the early 90s and everybody had money that way and everything was flowing and everyone was happy all the time.
Inflation was low. Everything was great.
But Kevin was right from the start, even then, because he was the only one who didn't want to go to a tropical climate for Christmas.
Right.
And I agree with him.
Well, regardless of the tropics, like, do we not remember last year and how that ruined everything? Like, let's just stay here. Why are we doing it again? And like, I just can't imagine them doing it again. And then and of course, they lose him for the second year in a row. After that point, if you're these parents, you go, we can never do it. We can never fly again. We just have to stay in Chicago.
And much like the outdated trope of the windblown newspaper, today Kevin would never get on an accidental flight because they dropped the boarding passes.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like for the time. It made enough sense.
Yeah.
I would have thought if prior to this year. Oh man, I'm going to do it again. Prior to this year, I would have thought that even something like this would be unlikely. But earlier this year, I listened to the Conan podcast. Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. And he had Molly Shannon on. And Molly Shannon talked about how when she was 14, her and her friend snuck on a plane and flew to New York and hung out in New York for a few hours and then called their dad and went, hey, we're in New York. Can you come get us? And he had to drive from like Minnesota or somewhere like that to come get them. They snuck on
Completely
a
different
plane.
time.
It was
Yeah,
a
completely
totally
different
time.
Pre 9/11. No security. No
security. Nobody even look. Don't even pay
Zero.
attention. Where did these 2 children come from? Do you have tickets? They didn't even
You
bother.
can barely get inside an airport anymore without a ticket.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
Well, and like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I might cut out what I'm about to say. But y'all know that for a time, airliners were hijacked often.
Yeah,
That was a almost common occurrence.
yeah. It wasn't. It was pretty. It was. People just take the plane, and go wherever they want.
And they'd like land it somewhere else for ransom usually. But that was a thing. I mean, so we established that they didn't learn anything. The family didn't learn anything after the first movie. They also make it very clear that they didn't learn anything after this one because they come back to the hotel. They wake up on Christmas. Mr. Duncan has showered them with gifts. Buzz does this half-assed, terrible speech about how Kevin should get to open the first present, and they all agree, and then they don't let him.
No, they all open.
They immediately tear into everything
it
right
was-
after they
Yeah.
say Kevin should go first. This family is the worst.
They're worst,
are.
and most of them are just faceless
They still
idiots. But
don't care about Kevin.
Josh, the thing is, it was so on brand for this family that I almost didn't register it. As it was happening, I went, well, wait, they all opened their presents before Kevin. But then I thought to myself, well, that's exactly what they would do. That's them.
And what did he do? He went downstairs, went outside, and gave the pigeon lady his other turtle dove. Because
That was
Kevin
it.
is the only one in this movie, while he may be a sociopath, who is also empathetic at all.
Yeah. Well, he has to really get to know someone, and this is the same thing with the snow shoveler. Incidentally, am I the only person that ships the snow shoveler guy with the pigeon lady? I think Home Alone 3, they should have gotten them together.
Old Man Marley or whatever?
Whatever. Old Man Marley and the pigeon lady, they're perfect together. Perfect.
Old Man Marley and the Pigeon Lady sound.
What are the odds that, Kevin would befriend 2 terrifying people, like that in consecutive years? I mean, it's like when we talk about the fact that it is very much a rehash of the first Home Alone, like it is, like that, like there are key, like the same lesson is learned. the same beats happen where, he's terrified of some stranger and then he ends up befriending the stranger.
Yeah, I mean,
And all of that, like all those beats are there.
I think that's what makes it work so well, is that they take the same beats and they just take it and they put it in a bigger, which is why they should have never made any more after this one.
Yeah, technically they didn't,
And technically they didn't,
you
because
know,
it's all new cast, but
all new people, whole, like the premise works, but like also there is it. I think there were a lot of people probably even in the 90s, like they lost that kid again. Like it's like, how many times are they going to lose this kid? And
You,
because like
you,
it is kind of like the premise works twice at best.
well, I
yeah.
remember growing up being taught in the 90s that someone was wanting to steal me at all times.
Yeah, stranger danger, man. And
I
like
do
thinking
wonder
about it,
how a modern day, I haven't seen any of the modern day Home Alone, but I wonder how they work because this also, we talked about it last week with Ernest Saves Christmas, which you can go listen to if you choose. How this movie also to me feels like you can only make it in this time frame because now you have cell phones, you have all of these different ways of staying in communication, whereas in the 90s and in the or late 80s, early 90s, it was believable that this could happen. It was a stretch, but everything was believable. But now,
yeah,
the power lines go down. Okay, you send a text. You're there. You can stay in communication, and
right.
so I wonder how you make them work in this day and age.
It was
I haven't
it,
seen them, so I bet they don't. But
this situation in a lot of ways was more plausible than the first Home Alone because you remember like so to have a Home Alone today, you would have to come up with several reasons for the basic things we have now to not work. Cell
yeah,
phones, home security systems, social media, all that stuff, right? There's hundreds of ways that you could communicate with someone you left behind. In the 90s, not so much. Kevin has no access to a phone, and he's in a city now where he doesn't even, who knows what phone he could even be near. In the first Home
right.
Alone, the phone dies or something like that. They establish that
Power
somehow.
goes out in the
The police
neighborhood.
go to check on him, but he's scared to answer the police. So, like,
I know.
those are like some ways they came up with to justify how, but like this, like, how would they know he's at the Plaza Hotel?
I know.
Honestly, the fact that the credit card, the track of cell phone, that was probably like a track a credit card. That was a pretty new thing ish.
That
Yeah,
yeah, I was gonna say that part honestly surprised me a little bit because I didn't think that's how they were still doing credit cards, you know? She's like, "I don't even think he knows how to use a credit card." And my first thought was, what is there to know? But then it immediately cuts to that ka-chunk, ka-chunk machine, which to this day I don't know how it works. Don't want to, don't need to.
Yeah, I'm
no,
not sure either. I'm not sure either. Like the evolution of the credit card scanner, it would be an interesting
Y'all
up
got
there with
a
the Santas,
y'all got
Santa camp.
a favorite part, a favorite booby trap, a favorite line, a favorite anything.
Mm,
I'm always a fan of anything Tim Curry. The things in the second half of this movie, I feel like they run together so much that I can't decipher one from the other. The brick one, honestly, as I talk about it now, is the only one that stands out there. I know there was a nail gun, and then Joe Pesci puts his head in the toilet and it explodes. But
yeah.
but nothing really jumped out as anything new. It was just kind
Yeah.
of rehash.
In terms of hurting the Wet Bandits, I do like the tool shed coming down the stairs. They go, "What is that?" That was the sound of a tool shed falling down the stairs. It's and the imagery of that going down. So there's that. I think one of my favorite parts is probably the gumption, the audacity of Kevin's parents giving the hotel staff static over them acquiescing to Kevin. And when they are the ones, Kevin played a role in it, but they were the ones that lost the kid to begin with. And they're like, "Why would you take a child in with no parent here?" And it's like, "Well, he was very convincing." And it's like, and then he's like, "Madam, you don't want to do that." And he's like trying to butt in, and she slaps him, and stuff like that. And they're just giving them all kinds of heck. And I'm like, they deserve it a little bit because Tim Curry and Rob Schneider, they are kind of jerks. But I'm like, what moral ground do you dingbats, this collection of fools, have to stand there and, and belittle anyone for actually technically taking care of your child?
You're totally right. You're totally right. And they are jerks about it. At one point I remember thinking that, they the hotel people may be right, but that doesn't mean they had any right to be so suspicious of Kevin.
Right. Yes.
Your suspicion was correct, but I don't know why you held it so
Like,
strongly.
they were a little bit nefarious in their suspicion of Kevin, but honestly, technically, they were doing what they should have done, where they were like, "That kid is unattended or seems to be
Yeah.
unattended," and they were checking in on him. They were just kind of nefarious in the ways they were doing it. But technically, they were doing what the parents wanted them to do, which was, why would you let him in here unattended? It's like, well, he had a convincing story and he had the dad's credit card. And we were like, well, we'll see the dad here in a minute. He'll come down here and sign these papers. and he never did. So we checked in on him, and he was up, but he was in the he was in the shower seemingly. Like, you know, I don't know. It was it, but just for the dad and the mom to stand there to yell at them,
The
it was just I
the
don't know.
truth the true standout star for me of this movie, Talk Boy. The Talk Boy.
The Talk
Right?
Boy.
The Talk Boy. I
Credit
had a
card?
Talk Boy.
You've got it.
Like
I
this
had it. Well, I
movie,
had a little Talk Boy recorder back in the day.
You
Oh, I
did.
loved it. I did. I wish I still had it. It was amazing.
that was like a fantasy item as far as I was concerned. Like I never thought I would own anything remotely like that.
It was dope, man.
Like a regular tape recorder is what I had.
They were
No,
real.
a Talk Boy.
Oh man, I mean, it is such a movie item because I remember as a kid, I would watch films like Home Alone, or I'm trying to think, I can't think of another good example, but I would watch these movies and kids would get these incredibly amazing toys, and I'm like, holy crap! How did they get like a full opera? Like kids would get like Blank Check comes to mind, where they would have like these absurd toys, and I'm like, I don't know what I would do with that. This kid's got like a go-kart and a go-kart track. He's got like a giant mini golf course in his backyard. This is like everything a kid could have, I saw Kevin, riding in the back of a limousine eating pizza, and I'm like, this is the height of luxury, you know? It may or may not be two John Mulaney jokes I've stolen for this podcast, but
Hey, we just gave him credit, so we got it.
there you go. Yeah, I wish the Talk Boy. I mean, the movie, it kind of hangs on the Talk Boy.
It's an important
That
tool
way.
in Kevin's arsenal of madness.
It is. It doesn't really play into the movie with the Harvin with
No, he
Marv
just
and Harry,
he
but he
uses
uses
it
it throughout the rest of it. Yeah.
And that's
Yep.
another way I appreciate the beats being changed slightly. In the first movie, Kevin also has to make a show that adults are still around. And so he does the same thing in this one, just in new creative ways. His Talk Boy, his inflatable clown in the shower. Like, this kid he's too smart for his own good.
Yeah, and we would be remiss if we didn't also mention the 1940s movie or whatever, the gangster film that he's watching, and the seller lines from that. And it's funny because, like, is it the repeat? Is like the "Merry Christmas, you filthy animal"? Was that in the first one too? I mean, it's just
I can't remember the
yeah,
lore.
I
I
love it.
think it's supposed to be two different movies that
Yeah,
are sequels of each other. But either way, Kevin has them memorized, and that's concerning.
he
Yeah.
does. He does. He's totally into it. He's got the pause and fast forward down in terms of exactly when he needs to stop it because he's queuing off right on Tim Curry's lines.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty good. You was smooching with all of them, and then Cliff, and they look at Cliff. Not true.
I'll get a little more Christmassy wholesome with my favorite part and say that it's when he gets settled into New York and he has the whole New York City montage at Christmas time. He sees the lights and the skating rink, and he takes a Polaroid at the top of the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this is the movie that made me be like, wow, I want to go to New York someday. This is amazing. And
Yeah.
still to this day, it felt really, I don't know. It should just be an ad for New York.
It is. It's a very romanticized depiction of New
It's
York.
extremely romanticized. And it's funny because, like, at that point in time, I'm pretty, someone could fact check me on this, but I think New York City was not as safe as it is considered today. Some people will say that it's never safe, but genuinely, I think crime was a bigger issue in the early 90s in the city than it is today.
Yeah.
And so even seeing that romanticized at that time is like, it's cool. I have been dying to see New York at Christmas time basically since I saw this movie, I think.
They definitely do show both sides. Later in the movie when he's walking sort of alone and he's in a worse side of town. It's not an overly romanticized version of New York, but just a kid and these tall buildings and the Statue of Liberty and all that. So it's very much it does feel like a brochure for Visit New York.
It is. Yeah.
It was really stunning. I'd forgotten that he goes to, they have a shot and they go to the top of the World Trade Center.
Yeah, and like I don't even know if you could ever do that. I feel like Kevin snuck because he was on the roof.
It was
The roof.
purely one of those things that only happens in a movie.
Exactly. And again, he's just like taking a freaking Polaroid up there as if that would look like anything.
Honestly, kind of an impressive shot because it's probably like a helicopter shot that I assume a crew member or some crew members are somewhere off, out of the shot. But it's just Macaulay Culkin standing at the top of the World Trade Center,
It's
by
cool
himself.
because
It's a
it
pretty cool shot.
is cool because it really shows how massive those buildings were.
Mm.
The towers were always used in movies to get a shot of, like, how tall they are, right? But
Mm.
it's not often that there's a human on top and you can really get a comparison and see
Right.
that, wow, those things were friggin'
They're huge.
huge.
Yeah. I mean, and it's always interesting to go back
Special.
to pre 9/11 and see them in films and see them in and they were I mean, I think a lot of it's very possible that a lot of people our age who were what, middle school, right, for during when 9/11 happened? The Twin Towers have become iconic mostly because so much of that day, but they were iconic before, like, they were really, like, a piece of the Tulsa the New York skyline, and just as much as the Empire State Building, the Statue of Liberty, and all that, like, they were a
Right.
big piece of what made New York, and it's always great to go back and watch these old movies and see that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Didn't think we'd talk about that in the show, but there
it's fine. It is
Sometimes
a
you gotta
cool
get
shot,
deep.
and it is part of that montage that shows the beauty of the city, and it's just, like, something you can't experience anywhere else, that kind of moment. But I digress.
Yeah, we yeah.
Let's talk about how this movie did
Yeah.
commercially. Was it as big of a hit as Home Alone 1? I don't even
Yeah,
know. I haven't looked.
Yeah, let me pull it up here because the first Home Alone did very well. It was a big hit. It was in theaters for almost a full year, like over 400 days. So I guess over a full year now that I'm looking at it. First Home Alone was huge, and we talked about that last time. Or I think you guys did. I don't know if I was on that show. Home Alone 2 opened better. It opened on November 20th of 1992, 2 years later. And it opened to $31 million in 2,000 theaters, beating out Dracula, Malcolm X, starring Denzel Washington, which also opened that weekend, Passenger 57 with Wesley Snipes, and at number 5, A River Runs Through It. All those movies did under 10 mil, except for Dracula, that did 15 million. But yeah, Home Alone 2 opened better than the first Home Alone, which definitely got that good word of mouth. This one, people were excited, and they were like, "Oh, big! It's Home Alone. This is going to be the new Christmas thing. We'll go see it." And so it performed well. It did not ride out that performance as well as the first Home Alone. The first Home Alone, just to jog your brought in 285 million over the course of its whole run, and Home Alone 2 would finish in at 173 million. So a bit of a drop down, but also still quite profitable for what they did. Home Alone 2 was the number 2 movie of 1992 with that 173 million. At number 1 for the year of 1992, you had Disney's Aladdin, which brought in 217 million.
Mm.
The only movie to make more than 200 million at the box office that year. At number
Aladdin
3,
ties into our Ernest Saves Christmas episode last week. Find out how by going and listening to it.
it's true. Go.
Gonna make people watch that episode.
You gotta watch. You gotta listen to, watch, review. Leave us a review for the Ernest Saves Christmas and all of these. Really, honestly, pretty stacked year 1992. I'm just gonna read. I'm just gonna go through the top 10 real quick. I won't give you the numbers. You had Aladdin at number 1 with 200 million. Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Uh, so many sequels. So many Santas. Previous So Many Santas movie. Batman Returns at number 3 or 4. Lethal Weapon 3 at number 5. A Few Good Men at number 6. Sister Act. At number 7, The Bodyguard. At number 8, Wayne's World. At number 9, Basic Instinct. And at number 10, A League of Their Own.
That by how high Lethal Weapon 3 is on that list. No,
You
Yeah.
don't think
real.
it should have been? It would finish at number 4, 144
Not based
million.
on some of those other movies that came out. Right? There's no way that Lethal Weapon 3. I'll get a pass on 1 and 2, but I don't think you can talk me into 3. It's been a while since I've seen it.
It was a hot franchise. Mel Gibson was
was.
one of the biggest stars in Hollywood at that point in time. You know?
It's true. Joe Pesci was there for that one, I think, too.
Oh yeah,
I think
yeah.
he
So
was
you
in
had
the
2
third
big
one.
movies that year.
I think he was in the third one.
11 movies. We talked about it last week. 1988, only 6 movies made more than 100 million. In 1992, 11 movies made more than 100 million in the domestic box office. So we're starting to see those bigger numbers start to come up. We're starting to see some more movies they're in more theaters. They're in theaters a little bit longer, and things are really starting, stack up. That's really all I've got for Home Alone, Lost in New York. Not quite as high as the first one, but still a pretty respectable number, finishing as the number 2 movie of 1992.
Yeah, good deal. To go into our letterbox game, I've got some reviews from folks here. I'm going to start with one that it's a lot, okay? But this is the most popular review of the movie on the site with 2,589 likes. It is all one sentence, and it is all in caps. These are things you need to know because, and I'm going to not say some of the words,
Okay.
but some of them I will say.
Okay. Some of them you will.
Marv gets fucking murked in this one. He got like 4 bricks right in the head, staples in the dick, fell through a hole on the floor, got paint cans all over him while a shelf hit him, got fucking electrocuted, got a massive sack of whatever that was on his noggin, got a huge metal bar in the face, and then on the chest fucking fell from him like on the 3rd story of a house, got cans of varnish dumped all over him, then got attacked by Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. I mean, I know he's a horrible person, but Marv, are you okay?
Yeah, Marv gets it way worse because Pesci doesn't get it quite that bad. Pesci might
And I bet
live
that
through
was-
this movie, you know?
Yeah. I bet that was contractual. I bet Pesci intimidated some people and
He's
not have to
got
do as much.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
So then we've got 2 Home, 2 Alone. He's even more a loner this time. The Pigeon Lady is one of the most iconic side characters in all of cinema.
I'll support that. I'll support that.
Learning that Duncan's toy chest is not a real place is one of life's greatest disappointments. And
Nobody
then
wants to
a
be
few
playing with
good
their
ones.
toys.
These are for you, David. Kevin McCallister is wanted for attempted murder in 3 different states. The traps here are more brutal than the ones in Saw.
Some of them,
And
yeah.
Are we just going to pretend we didn't see that twinkle in Kevin's eye when he increased the voltage on the arc welder?
I was gonna say it. That was my next comment was when Kevin turns up, he turns up the electricity on this guy. He's already electrocuting him and he's like, and I'm like, this child he's going to murder Buzz. You know, he's going to murder Buzz.
Also,
Nothing
I
of
will say,
value is
though,
lost.
I will say he's an Avenger. I mean, these 2 guys came after him in the first movie, right? He runs into him again. You could argue self-defense, and he's scared for his life, so he's defending.
You could
it, right?
argue.
But also,
I don't know if
deserves it, but-
I don't know if premeditated traps set up that you're leading someone to it counts as self-defense necessarily, but you could argue self-defense.
I mean, we didn't even say it earlier, but just as much as Kevin could have chosen to just not mess with them, they also could have just not messed with the child.
They could have not chased him. They could have said, "Holy crap, he took a picture of us. Let's get the heck out of here." Like all he had to do instead of
after
running.
what they went through in the first one, it's obscene that they didn't.
They just honestly
sick.
after the brick
Oh,
incident,
man.
the fact that Marv's still alive after the brick incident, when Harry said, "You go through the front, I'm going through the back," I would have said, "F you, brother." I would have left. But again, Kevin did not need to lead them to the house. He had the photos. He could have just ran to the police station and say, "I have photographic evidence of 2 men stealing from this store." Like that's all he needed to do. And if they were dumb enough, which let's face it, they are, to chase him to the police station, then there you go. But or he could have just run straight to the park and just done the phone call and the fireworks. You know, he took that detour. He didn't have to, but he did.
That's true. So,
But
anyway,
again, it is that part of the movie is a live action cartoon, and that's the part. That's why you bring in Pesci and Daniel Stern is to be a live action cartoon. So I understand.
It's your movie. What do you think? Or
I was going to say with those popular letterbox thoughts, what do we think the audience average is? I think it's going to be reasonably high. It's been long enough since we did Home Alone that I don't remember at all what it is. And I'm not
Yeah.
going to look.
No.
So, but I'm going to guess it's like 3.6.
solid guess. That's a solid guess.
Garrett, I'll let you go. I'll let you go next.
I think it's 3.8. I think people like it. I think there's nostalgia. I think that people just really like it.
I'm going to go on the other end of both of you. I will say 3.3.
Okay. Got 3.3, 3.8, and 3.6. We again do not need a tiebreaker, but we also still don't have a direct hit. I know, we're off again. But freaking again, David was the closest one.
Yeah, he's killing the game. He really is the letterbox king.
It's a
It was what?
3.4.
3.4.
3.4 on Letterboxd.
You know, that's unfortunate. My gut was 3.2, so I should have, and I would have been further off if I gone with that. But I was like, oh, you guys went higher, so I was like, I'll just skosh up a little.
I
bit.
honestly was going to say 3.4, and then I thought, I usually go low. I'm going to go high this time, and that backfired.
Psyched ourselves out,
Yeah,
man.
there goes your instinct.
I know.
Yeah, what do we give it? I believe it's a 4-star movie.
I think I gave it a 3 initially, and then this conversation boosted it up just because it is fun. I mean, you give it an extra half star for a Christmas movie. You got a 3.5 star Home Alone 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, I don't remember what I gave Home Alone 1. I'm going to say, I also am going to say 3.5 because it does do some things better than the first, but there is an element of it was kind of repetitive. It is a little bit like it is a little bit longer. I think 3.5 is fair. I'm going to go with that.
Okay. That brings us to like a 3.6 average. So there you go. We're
I'm
just
content with that.
very close to Letterboxd average, just a smidge higher, which I'm fine with because I like the movie a lot. Okay. Well, that is Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. I am kind of tempted to watch that latest one to see how they make it work because I
Yeah.
didn't think about that when it came out.
Like, how do they
I
get
think it
around
does.
all the
How do they
different
get
ways
around
of
the
bet it
existence
does
of the
today?
internet?
Yeah.
But all in all,
You know how you do it? You
please.
set it back in the 90s and do it all over again.
Yeah. I mean,
That's what
you
I would
just-
do. Not everything
setting.
needs to be set today.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have one more, I think, right?
Right. We
One
have
more
Christmas
Adam,
movie.
Andrew's pick.
One more print. Yeah.
It's Andrew's pick. He did tell us what he's leaning toward. Well, he told me and Garrett. David doesn't know.
Oh, surprise for me.
But I don't think he's finalized it yet. We'll find
Okay.
out. We'll find out together next week.
Let me ask you,
that
is
will
it,
be
is it
everybody's
actually
final
a Christmas
Christmas present.
movie?
Well,
I will say I have to be honest and say I've never seen this movie.
Is it Christmas themed or is it a Christmas movie?
It's absolutely Christmas themed. I don't know if it's actually a Christmas movie. Garrett, have you seen that movie?
you know what? I don't remember what he said he was going to do.
Oh my
Oh.
gosh.
I
Okay.
know. I forgot.
All right. Well, we will
I
find
can't
out.
say anything or it'll give it away.
We'll find out next week.
Yeah, we'll find out
Which will
next week.
be-
And then we'll have one more episode after that, our year-end review, where we're going to talk about our favorite movies of the year, probably our least favorites, biggest surprises, all that fun stuff still to come. We'll be back next time. Follow us online, SoManySequels.com. We got links to our socials there. And you can subscribe to our Patreon to get access to our Discord. So go do all that. Just Google search So Many Sequels. All right, Christmas, you filthy
You filthy
animals.
animals.
Happy holiday. Insane.
Happy New Year.